Do you ever feel like you've been discarded? Like you're just another person in her past? Maybe you were the one who gave everything, but she still left. Let me tell you this right now, she will regret it. And yes, it's hard to believe now, but the truth is, she will come back and she will beg to be with you again. Here's a simple yet harsh reality. Women are attracted to men who don't chase. If you're always running after her, showing too much interest, you're actually doing yourself a huge disservice. You become predictable, and worst of all, you become boring. But what if I told you that the secret to having her beg for you is doing the complete opposite of what you've been taught? What if ignoring her, withdrawing your attention, and embracing your own life was the ultimate key to getting her back on your terms? This isn't some get her back game. It's about understanding the psychology of attraction, and the most powerful thing you can do is to create distance and let her miss you. Women, just like men, need space to truly value what they've lost. They need to feel that your attention isn't guaranteed, and that you're not a safety net waiting for them to fall back into. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, isn't that manipulative? Shouldn't I just be myself? Well, here's the thing. This isn't manipulation, it's strategy. When you understand the psychology of attraction, you'll see that the most appealing trait you can have is the power of choice. A man who is not desperate, not needy, and who has options is a man women respect. They don't want someone they can have whenever they please. They want someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to walk away. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why she'll come back to you, why she'll regret letting you go, and how you can use this to your advantage. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll understand why the real secret to making her beg for you is in your hands, not hers. 1. The truth about why women leave you. Let's face it, sometimes it feels like you're doing everything right, and she still walks away. You're putting in the effort, being there for her, and showing her love, but it's just not enough. Here's the hard truth. It's not about how much you give, but about what you're not giving, and that's yourself. Women don't leave because you don't love them enough. They leave because they stop feeling your value. When you're always available, when you drop everything for her, you're telling her you don't have a life outside of her, and that's exactly what she doesn't want. Women are attracted to men who have their own passions, their own goals, and their own life outside the relationship. A man who is always on standby isn't someone she respects. This doesn't mean you should play games or fake disinterest. What it means is that your life, your ambitions, your time should never revolve around her. You have to maintain your own identity and sense of self-worth. The moment you start losing that is the moment she starts losing respect for you. Women want a man who is independent, not emotionally dependent on them. Take Mark's situation as an example. Mark had been with Sarah for over 2 years. He was always available, always giving, always ready to help her with whatever she needed. At first, Sarah was drawn to his attentiveness, but over time, it began to feel more like a chore. She stopped feeling that spark of desire for him because he was so predictable. She knew he would always drop everything for her, and that's exactly what she needed. Eventually, she pulled away. Sarah wasn't the problem. Mark was. By being constantly available, he lost his value in her eyes. He didn't allow her to miss him, and because of that, the relationship began to feel stale. Here's where things get tricky. If you're always there, it's not just that she gets bored, it's that she stops valuing the time and effort you put in. Women are wired to be attracted to men who have a certain level of mystery, who aren't always at their beck and call. When you become too easy to have, she starts thinking you're not worth the effort. She starts questioning, if he's this easy to get, how valuable is he really? The key takeaway here is simple. You need to maintain your own life. When you stop making her the center of your world, she'll begin to notice. And that's when the attraction starts to build again. She'll wonder why you're not texting as much, why you're not dropping everything for her. That's when she starts to realize what she's missing. And that's when she'll come back, realizing she didn't value you enough when she had you. It's not about ignoring her to play games. It's about having your own life so full and fulfilling that she wants to be part of it. You don't need to chase her. Just be the man who doesn't need to. 2. The power of ignoring her and why it works. Ignoring her might sound counterintuitive, but this is one of the most powerful tools you have. When a woman pulls away or stops showing interest, most men tend to chase after her. They text more, call more, beg for attention. But here's the truth. When you chase, you lose. When you ignore, you win. Women are drawn to men who are a bit of a mystery, who don't need constant validation, and who don't chase after them. The moment you stop chasing, you immediately raise your value in her eyes. Ignoring her doesn't mean being rude or completely shutting her out. It simply means pulling back and giving her space to realize what she's missing. The absence of attention forces her to think about you more, and when she starts thinking about you, she starts wanting you again. This is all about making her feel the loss. Women have a natural desire to want what they can't easily have. If you're always accessible, always giving, there's nothing left for her to desire. By pulling back and ignoring her, you're creating a space where she feels your absence and begins to crave your presence. Take Jake's experience. He had been in a relationship with Emily for a while, but after some time, she started to pull away. Instead of texting her more or asking what was wrong, Jake decided to focus on his own life. He stopped reaching out as much. He didn't cancel his plans to meet her. He kept doing the things that made him happy, hitting the gym, going out with friends, working on his business. Emily noticed. At first, she felt confused and maybe even a bit frustrated. But over time, she realized how much she missed him. She started texting him more, trying to spark conversations, even becoming more flirtatious. The tables had turned, and now she was chasing him. The beauty of ignoring her isn't just in the space it creates, it's in the message it sends. You're telling her that your life is full, that you're not desperate, and that you don't need her for validation. That's incredibly attractive. Desperation is a huge turnoff, but a man who stands his ground and doesn't chase is a man who commands respect and attention. Here's the catch. Ignoring her doesn't mean playing games or pretending you don't care. It means showing that you are strong enough to not be affected by her lack of attention. You're showing her that your life comes first, and she's either going to fall in line or miss out. Women want what they can't have. When you stop being so available, she'll begin to see your value again. And that's when she'll start coming back, realizing that the man she let slip away was the one she truly wanted. 3. Why desperation is your worst enemy. Desperation is like a neon sign flashing "I'm not valuable" above your head. When you're desperate, you're not thinking clearly and you're not acting with confidence. You're acting out of need, and women can feel that energy from a mile away. And let me tell you, that is the fastest way to push someone away, especially a woman. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you were desperate for something or someone? What did it make you do? Did you feel powerful? Of course not. Desperation is the opposite of power. It makes you act in ways that are not authentic, that feel forced, and that are almost always off-putting. When you're desperate, you start doing things you normally wouldn't do. You start texting her too much, worrying about what she thinks of every little thing you say, and doubting your worth. Instead of letting things unfold naturally, you try to control every situation. You may even find yourself obsessing over her response, checking your phone every few minutes, or waiting for her to come around. The problem is, when you act desperate, it makes her feel like you have no other options, no other life, and nothing else going on. What you need to realize is this: you have value. You are not some backup option, and your happiness shouldn't depend on whether or not she texts you back. When you start to think of yourself as valuable, you stop chasing validation from others. You stop needing her approval to feel good about yourself. And that's the moment things start to shift. Desperation also makes you do things that undermine your own self-worth. You might text her endlessly, thinking that if you just say the right thing, she'll come back around. You start to ignore your own needs, your own desires, just to win her back. But this isn't healthy, and it's certainly not attractive. It makes you lose your sense of self, and it makes her lose respect for you. It's easy to get caught up in this cycle of trying to earn her love or attention. But here's the thing. You don't earn love. Love is a choice. And when you're desperate, you're making it harder for her to make that choice. Desperation comes from a place of fear, the fear of losing her, the fear of not being enough. But when you embrace your worth, when you know that you're enough just as you are, you're not afraid to let things play out. You're not afraid to walk away if the relationship isn't right for you. Instead of desperation, focus on building your own life, your own happiness, and your own goals. When you focus on you, you stop needing her. You'll start seeing your own value, and that confidence will naturally make you more attractive to her and to anyone else who crosses your path. Desperation doesn't just hurt your chances with her, it hurts you. It makes you lose your power, and it forces you into a place where you're no longer in control of your own life. So, if you want her back, stop begging, stop chasing. The moment you let go of that desperation is the moment she'll start seeing you in a new light. 4. How women secretly respect men who walk away. Let's get real for a second. If you're constantly chasing, if you're always available, then you're not respecting yourself. And believe me, she's noticing. There's something powerful in walking away, and not just walking away out of anger or frustration, but because you know your worth. You know that you are not going to settle for anything less than respect, and that in itself is what makes you stand out. Here's the truth. Women secretly respect men who walk away. Why? Because walking away is a sign of strength, confidence, and self-respect. It tells her that you won't tolerate being treated like an option. It shows that you understand your value and aren't afraid to lose something that isn't adding to your life. When you walk away, you're not begging for attention or trying to convince her to stay. You're making a statement that you are not desperate, and that alone makes you far more attractive than any desperate plea for her to come back. But here's the problem, and it's something a lot of men need to wake up to. Most men don't do this. They get emotionally invested, they chase, and they start doing things that only push her further away. They ignore the fact that their worth isn't tied to her and start thinking they need to earn her attention, to prove themselves worthy of her love. That's not how attraction works. You can't earn a woman's love by constantly chasing her, by bending over backwards, and by giving up your own self-respect. And yet, so many men make that mistake. If you're one of those men, it's time to wake up. Stop thinking you're doing the right thing by always trying to make her happy, by being the perfect, predictable guy who always shows up. That behavior screams insecurity. It screams desperation. And it makes you forget that you are the one who should be pursued, not the other way around. When you walk away, you force her to respect you. Why? Because it makes her realize that you aren't emotionally dependent on her. It makes her realize that your happiness doesn't revolve around her attention. It gives her the space to miss you, and when she misses you, she starts to see your true value. That's when the respect builds. She sees you as someone who isn't afraid to stand on his own, to walk away when things aren't right, and to live life without needing her to complete you. But walking away doesn't mean being cold or dismissive. It means walking away with grace, with purpose, and without regret. It means knowing that you're moving forward with or without her. Women can't resist men who have that kind of confidence. It's a quiet power that speaks volumes. So, if you're still chasing after her, it's time to rethink your approach. You have to let go of the fear of losing her. Because the truth is, if you don't respect yourself enough to walk away, she never will. Stop trying to make it work when it's not working. Stop trying to hold on to someone who isn't holding on to you. Respect yourself enough to walk away and watch how things start to shift in your favor. 5. How to build a life that doesn't depend on her. Here's the harsh reality that most men are afraid to face. Your life cannot depend on her. So many men lose themselves in relationships, thinking that the key to happiness is getting her attention or keeping her around. But when you do that, when you revolve your entire existence around her, you end up losing yourself. You give away your power, your purpose, and your passion, and that's the worst mistake you can make. You have to build a life that stands on its own, a life that is fulfilling and meaningful, whether she's in it or not. If you don't have your own passions, your own goals, and your own life outside of the relationship, then you're not bringing anything of value to the table. You're just a guy who is desperately trying to keep her interested by constantly focusing on her. But that's not how attraction works, and it's not how a healthy relationship works either. When you have a life outside of her, you stop putting pressure on her to fulfill all your emotional needs. You stop needing her validation because you've already built a life that is validating on its own. You've found your purpose, you've invested in your passions, and you've created a world that doesn't rely on her to make you feel whole. When you live this way, you're not chasing after her approval or desperately seeking her attention. You're living your life and letting her see what you're doing, letting her see that your life is rich, interesting, and full. It's time to get real with yourself. If you're not working on building your own life, you're making a huge mistake. It's easy to get caught up in a relationship, especially when things are going well, but if you don't have a life outside of her, you're setting yourself up for failure. A relationship should enhance your life, not complete it. You should come into the relationship already complete, already strong, and already focused on your own journey. This means working on yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. Focus on your health, your career, your friendships, and your hobbies. Invest time in things that matter to you, not just what matters to her. Build a life that is so interesting, so fulfilling, that she can't help but be drawn to you. When she sees that you're not dependent on her for your happiness, she'll respect you more. She'll start to see that you have your own world, and that's incredibly attractive. A woman wants to be with a man who doesn't need her, but who chooses to be with her because he wants to. When you build a life that doesn't depend on her, you take back your power. You start to control the narrative. And ultimately, you stop worrying whether she'll come back because you're too busy building a life that's so much bigger than just her. So, wake up. Build a life that's worth living, whether or not she's in it. When you do this, you won't have to beg for her attention or fight for her affection. You'll simply live your life. And when she sees the man you've become, that's when she'll come back. Because she'll realize that the man she walked away from was far more valuable than she ever knew. Here's the cold, hard truth that most men are too afraid to admit. The moment you stop needing her is the moment she'll want you back. That's right. When you stop begging, stop chasing, and start focusing on your own life, that's when the tables turn. Women don't want the man who's always there, who's always available. They want the man who's living his own life, who is confident enough to walk away when things aren't right. It's controversial, but it's the truth that many men refuse to face. So, here's what I want you to do. I want you to comment below with your experiences. Have you ever been in a situation where walking away changed everything? Or are you still stuck in the cycle of desperation? I'll personally reach out to you and start a conversation. We'll connect, and I'll be there to guide you in building that powerful, independent life you deserve. Don't just watch this video and walk away. Engage with me, and let's make this change happen together. Your journey to becoming a man who stands on his own starts right here, right now. Let's talk.